I don't know about you, but I am so excited that we were able to get an extra hour of sleep. Come on, somebody. But I saw a meme on social media that said, if there's any year that we can skip the hour daylight savings time, it'll be this year, because we don't need another hour of 2020. How many believe that? I also saw another meme that said, we could also skip Halloween because we've been eating candy and wearing masks for 6 months. How many know that? Yes? I heard it's the new COVID-19 is not describing coronavirus, it's describing the 19 pounds we've all gained over these past 6 months. Anybody got the COVID-19 bulge? Yeah. This has been a rough year, hasn't it been? And we've all been struggling this year. And to top it all off, like 2020 needed to come with a presidential election. Like what? What would 2020 be without a presidential election? The truth is, there's a lot of uncertainty, isn't there? There are a lot of people who are worried and concerned about our future. It seems like the coronavirus is on its way back up again. People believe that the worst days are still ahead. We still don't have a vaccine. We still don't know about our future. We still don't know how this is going to affect us economically. I feel you. I feel your pain. I feel the uncertainty with you. And I know that during times like this, we could all be worried and concerned and anxious. And to add more fire or fuel to the fire, as they say, on Tuesday we vote for a new president or re-elect the current president. And according to statistics last year, it was roughly 50-50, 48% to 46%. Basically, half of our country are going to be very disappointed on Wednesday morning when they wake up. And the truth is, in our church, about 4 years ago, we did a live poll in service, and we polled our church, and we said, are you Democrat or Republican? And, we are not, I don't mean to say it in a disrespectful way, we are not a white evangelical Republican church. We are a multicultural, multi-ethnic, very diverse church, which I am so honored to pastor this amazing church to be a part of. Let me say that again. Isn't this amazing church to be a part of? Okay. Getting the people online very worried, all right? And when we did the poll, it was about 50-50, half Democrats, half Republicans. So half of y'all ain't going to be happy on Wednesday morning. And the truth is, this year's election, it seems like the end of the world for some people. Like if this person gets elected, it's the end of the world as we know it. But what do we do? It's a question. What do we do when life doesn't go our way? What do we do in what we prayed for, worked for, asked God for, believed for? What do we do? If there's anything I've learned about what this season, about going through this season that we're in regarding this virus, is this, that I don't have much control over what I think I have control over. And I'm realizing as the months and weeks go by, the things I thought I had control over, I don't have control of. Do you feel that same way? Like I thought I had control of my finances. I thought I had control of my future. I thought I had control of my health. And it just seems like I don't have control. And what do we do when we can't control the future? What do we do when the outcome, when we can't control the outcome? I can tell you what some people do. They freak out. They panic. They get anxious. They get upset. They lose their peace. They lose their joy. Some get angry. Some want to retaliate. You know what I've learned? That sometimes there is a time to become angry and upset, but what I've learned through this season of uncertainty, I've learned that when I don't go back, I've learned that what to do when life doesn't go my way. You know what I've learned to do? Trust God no matter what. That's what I've learned. I've learned to trust God no matter what, because now you can hit it, what? God's got this. How many believe that? God's got this. And that's what I came to tell you today, that God's got this. And this is the name of the new message series we're starting today. God's got this. Because regardless of what you're experiencing, regardless of the future, regardless of the uncertainty and the fear and the anxiety and the finances, regardless of everything, how many know that God is still on the throne? That God is still in control? That God works all things together for our good? That nothing is a surprise to God? That He's still directing, He's still leading, He's still guiding, He's still providing, He's still protecting, that God is still God, and He's working in us, and He's working through us, not our purposes, but His purposes. How many believe that? I believe that. God's got this. So regardless who wins this week, God's got this. Regardless of the uptick in cases, God's got this. Regardless of the uncertainty at work, God's got this. God's got this. This is what I want to teach to you today. Part one, today's part one of the message series, God's got this. And I want to talk to you about trusting God no matter what. Trusting God no matter what. Now, I know it's easy to trust God when things are going well. But how many know that it's hard to trust God when things aren't? When things aren't going our way? When things are uncertain? It's hard because we worry. We get upset. We get anxious. And I'll be honest, I get worried sometimes. At the start of this virus, I was very worried about our finances, the finances of our church, my own personal finances, my future. Like all of you were worried about your finances, right? You were worried about, I was worried about toilet paper as well. I'm like, are we ever going to get toilet paper? Honestly, do you know how depressing it is to walk into the store and there's no toilet paper? Those paper towels are rough, people. There was a rough time in my life. Rough time. We all had, how many had a rough time during that season, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. And I also was worried about getting sick, and some of you did get sick. But I was worried about getting sick, and I had those flash moments that I thought I had a fever. Anybody feel that way? You're like, oh, God. Oh, God. Honey, feel me. Feel me. Honestly, I still have those moments. I feel kind of warm right now, right? You're like, oh, God, do I have a... You get a little sniffle, and you're like, oh, God. It's just true, isn't it? Like, we can laugh, but it's a serious issue, right? We're freaking out. And then you go to the store, or you see somebody, and then, you know, you give them a fist bump or something, and you're like, I wonder if they breathed on me, you know? Wonder if I'm good. But you know what? I've learned that if we're going to get through this season, we've got to trust God no matter what happens. No matter what we go through. No matter what situations we're in. We cannot lose our faith, and we cannot lose our trust. But you know what I notice is that it's difficult for you and I to trust God. And the question is, can I trust God? Let me illustrate to you this way. We have this chair here. We bought these chairs not too long, a couple years ago. They seem pretty strong, right? Sturdy and secure. And I think, I have faith that if I were to jump onto this chair, the chair will hold me up. How many have faith that this chair will hold me up? Is there a weight limit? Yeah, 195. Perfect. 195 right here, baby. Like, why is that so funny? Like, I just trying to... So 195 weight limit, perfect. This can hold me. How many believe this is going? If I jump on this chair, I have faith that this can hold me. All right? Here we go. Now, what's so funny is that all of y'all had faith that your chair was going to hold you up when you sat down, right? You didn't even think about that. But here we go. I hope they didn't rig it. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Faith. I had faith that the chair would hold me up. I also have faith that this chocolate frosted donut with sprinkles is going to be delicious. How many have faith? How many believe with me? Come on now, demonstrate your faith. That if I were to bite this, it's going to be sweet, right? Now, I'm not a donut eater. I know you know that because $1.95, right? But how many know, and now this is a great illustration because I get to take a bite into a donut. I haven't had a donut since first service. So how many believe that if you were to go and purchase this donut, it's going to be sweet? Let me demonstrate. People, it lived up to the faith. It is delicious. Sweet, chocolate, sprinkles. You know what I've learned? I know. You know what I've learned? Check it out. More people have faith in chairs and donuts than in God. Come on, somebody. Just look at the line to Dunkin' Donuts. Everyone's there. Everyone's online. Give me like a dozen. Because you know without a doubt that if you buy a dozen donuts or if you eat a donut, you know it's going to be good. You know it's going to be sweet. Why is it that we have more faith in donuts than we do in God? And God is the one who breathed life into us. God is the one who's created us. God is the one who's provided for us. God is the one who's given us the strength to go through every day. God is the one who's brought us this far. God is the one who's gotten us the employment, gotten us the income. God is the one who's provided for every one of our needs. Yet, we still doubt God. Why? Because we're human. And we struggle sometimes. And sometimes we lose our faith. But if we're going to get through any season of difficulty in our lives, we've got to trust God no matter what. Now, what does it mean to trust God? Right? What does it mean to trust God? When we say we trust God, what we mean is, and what we're saying, what does it mean to trust God no matter what? What we're saying is this. That we trust someone. When we say we trust someone, what we're saying is that they will do what they said they will do, and they are who they say they are. And I want to tell you today that you can trust God because He is who He says He is, and He promises to do what He said He's going to do. He's faithful. He's trustworthy. And sometimes God allows things to fall apart around us, things that we've trusted in, so that we can remove our trust from stuff to Him. And guess what's been happening? God has been shaking the very things that we trusted in. He's shaking our finances. He's shaking our government. He's shaking everything around us so that we can shift our trust from stuff to God. There's a story in the Bible about two people who built houses. One built their house on the sand and the other built their house on the rock. When you choose to trust in stuff, the Bible says a storm came and the house built on the sand collapsed. It fell apart. But the house that was built on the rock, AKA also known as Jesus, when the storms come, you will stand firm, you will stand secure, you will stand steadfast. As a matter of fact, a sign that you follow Jesus is not that you have a big Bible. A sign that you follow Jesus is that you carry peace. When the world is collapsing around you and you have a peace that surpasses all understanding, my friend, you're walking with Jesus. You're trusting in Jesus. Because He gives us peace. He gives us strength. He helps us go through the challenges of life. Sometimes we go through stuff because of poor decisions. Other times we go through stuff because of other people's poor decisions. And regardless of what we go through, God allows it to happen. And if it's allowed by God, what do? Well, I think about Job in the Bible. Job is an example of someone who remained faithful to God in the midst of suffering. Job, in the book of Job, in the scriptures, it's right before Psalms, Job, Psalms, Proverbs. Job was a faithful man of God. As a matter of fact, he's described as one of the most righteous men that ever lived during this period of time. Satan saw Job, and he went to heaven and approached God. And Satan questioned Job's righteousness, or Satan questioned Job's trust in God. And Satan said, you know what? He's following you or he's serving you because he has all of this stuff. But what if I take away all of that stuff? He won't follow you. He'll curse you. God said, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll allow you to steal or to take away Job's blessings, but do not touch Job's life. So Satan left heaven and attacked Job. Sometimes we go through stuff because we're under attack. Sometimes we go through poor decisions, make poor decisions. Sometimes we experience the poor decisions of others. And sometimes we're just under attack by the enemy. And listen, if you're under attack, you must recognize that God has allowed that attack. Not because he's mad at you, because he's working in you and he's strengthening you and he believes you'll pass the test. So when you go through some stuff, when you go through some difficulty, just know, Lord, thank you that I'm going through this struggle because you have faith that I can pass the test. Right? So Job, in one day, he loses his health, his wealth, his family were killed, they were ransacked, they were murdered. A wind came and knocked the roof of the house down, killed all his children, his family, his wife, his livestock. He lost everything, and then all of these sores come all over his body, from the sole of his feet to the crown of his head. And there he is, sitting in ash, trying to relieve himself from all of this. Job went through a lot of pain and suffering. Job questioned God and God's motive and God's heart. It's okay to question God. Job even was suicidal, and he questioned, he even cursed the day he was born. You ever been there that you just go through so much pain that you're like, I wish I was never born? Well, it's okay, because Job did, and Job was the most righteous man ever. And Job questioned the day he was born, but he never cursed God. You see, Job suffered more than anyone in Scripture except for Jesus. Jesus is the one who suffered more, right? So there's Job suffering. Then he has friends that come alongside of him and make it worse. They say, the reason why you're going through what you're going through is because there's sin in your life. That's what they said to him. You ever have those type of friends that don't speak life, they're always speaking death? So here's Job. He's in this pain. He's in this suffering and struggle. But Job teaches us what to do when we're suffering. Job teaches us what to do when we're in circumstances that are beyond our control. And one of the most profound statements that Job makes is found in Job chapter 13, verse 15. And he says this, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Now he was feeling as if God was slaying him. God wasn't slaying him, but he felt like the experiences that he was in were a result of God allowing it to happen. I once heard a theologian say, whom God uses greatly, he wounds deeply. The person that God uses greatly, he wounds deeply, meaning that they go through struggle, that they go through trial, that they go through difficulties and pain. And this is what Job declared. He says, though God slays me, I'm going to hold on to my trust. I'm going to hold on to my trust. And that's all I want to tell you today. Trust him no matter what, because God's got this. Hold fast to God, regardless of what happens this week or weeks to come. Job suffered, and yet he trusted God. He said, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. But what does it mean to trust God? It's a good question. Does it mean to, be happy all the time? No. What it means to trust God is to place your confidence, to place your security, to place your hope, to know that God's in control, that he can be relied upon, that he can and he will take you through what you're going through. Today I want to give you a few statements to help you out on what it means to trust God. And what I mean is, what does it mean to trust God? Next point says, move past your feelings and stand on your faith. Got to move past what you feel and stand in faith. Feelings go up and down, doesn't it? Your feelings would change just by eating dinner sometimes, right? You might eat a cheeseburger might be feeling good on the way in, but not, thank you, on the way out. I mean, you eat certain foods and it feels great, but then they throw you off and now you don't feel good and I don't feel well. And feelings go up and down, but feelings are important. I don't want to ignore feelings. Certain things that happen in this world are going to trigger feelings of anxiety, uncertainty, anger, trauma, resentment. So what do? Do we live according to those feelings, or do we stand firm on our faith? I love what David said in Psalm 62. He said this, trust in him at all times. Let's say that together. Trust in him at all times, you people. What does it say, church? Pour out your hearts to him, for God is our refuge. He says, first trust God, and then pour out your heart. The heart is the seat of the intellect, your will, and emotions. So he says this, pour out your emotions to me. Pour out your feelings to me. Pour out your anger, your resentment, your being upset, your anxiety, your worry. Trust me and pour out your heart to me, because I am your refuge. God says, I am your refuge. I'm the one that covers you. I'm the one that will protect you. I'm the one that will walk with you. Pour out your heart and trust me. So we first learned that if we're going to trust God no matter what, we're going to move past our feelings and stand on our faith. Secondly, we're going to move past our understanding and surrender to God's plan. A lot of things will not make sense in life. But just because it doesn't make sense doesn't mean you don't have faith in God and you lose your faith and trust in God. I know a lot of this doesn't make sense. It's hard because as human beings, we want to know, we want to understand. There's a lot of things we won't understand. Actually, there's a lot of things we don't understand about life. Like, I still don't understand how the internet works. Is it true? All I know is I just need, the Wi-Fi password. Just give me the password. And once I'm in the password, once my phone's connected, I'm connected to the world. Isn't that the way you think? Where all this stuff is, I don't know. I know there's an IP address, but who cares? Right? But just because I don't understand the internet doesn't mean I don't use it. I don't really understand how motors work. I know you put gas. I know it goes into the system. Gas creates energy, turns on these things, and they pump. They go up and down, the cylinders, pushes the axle, right, drive shaft, turns the wheels. That's about it. Just because I don't understand how a car really works doesn't mean I don't drive and use the Bluetooth and use Waze and my GPS and my satellite radio, right? Come on now, right? Doesn't mean I don't use it. And listen, I'm not going crazy. Like, I've got to understand how Bluetooth works. I'm not going to use Bluetooth unless I know how it works. That's dumb. Just use Bluetooth. I don't know why they call it Bluetooth, but it's a Bluetooth. It's just blue. It's a tooth. It just connects. It's amazing. It's great. I'm connected. You're connected. We're all connected. Then why do we always need to figure stuff out before we trust God? Why is it that, oh, I've got to understand why this is out. God, I don't understand. I don't understand. Therefore, I'm not going to. God says, I know you don't understand, but I do. And this you do know and you can understand. Romans 8:28 says, for I work all things together for your good. So if you can understand that, then trust me. Just trust me. You may not understand why you're going through what you're going through, but just trust me. Depend on me. I'm for you. I'm not against you. You know, a few years ago, I went through a difficult time in my life. I've shared this in the past. I went through burnout in 2015 and 16. I thought I was hypoglycemic. I didn't know what was going on with my life. I was numb emotionally. I crashed. It was so bad I couldn't drive. At times I couldn't drive. I just had to sleep all week. I was depressed. I don't know why I was going through what I was going through. I don't know why God allowed that to happen. After all, I'm a pastor. I should be like good, right? Pastor, you're good. You're a pastor. I want to be like you, a pastor. Don't be like me. Be like Jesus, right? Be like Jesus. I remember going through that season of darkness. It was like a wall. It was like I was stuck, and it went on for years. Now, I still functioned on Sundays and did my job, and I'm thankful for a staff that was able to run the church for me and with me. But it was a dark time in my life, and I didn't know why. And as I did the work, I'm open about this. I went to counseling. I started several years ago. I still go see a counselor. I still go just to maintain my health, my mental health, my emotional health, because y'all want a healthy pastor, right? You don't want to. So I went through that process of hard work, and I realized that I hadn't grieved a lot of my losses, which included my 51-day-old son in 2004. I remember when my son passed away, I just wanted to bury the pain, and I did it through work and ministry. I buried my son. And I said, all right, I got to get to work because I didn't want to feel that pain. And this is what I've learned through that season, that emotions buried alive stay alive. They never die. And eventually they came back. And I went through some betrayals and some pain and some losses, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I just thought, just stuff my emotions down, and I'll be good, and I'll be fine, until my emotions said, yikes, I've had enough. I don't work anymore. And then God led me on a path towards emotional and spiritual health. And after several years, I grew in spiritual health, emotional health, mental health. And to this day, and because of that hard work and professionals in my life and all of this stuff, I'm the healthiest I've ever been in my entire life today. Today. I am. But I often ask myself, why, God, did you allow that to happen in my life? Why? I didn't understand it at the moment, but I just had to trust God no matter what. In this past year, God has put a desire and passion within me to help other pastors who are in crisis. And over these past few months, God has opened doors to use my life as a bridge between pastors who are in crisis and helping them find help. God is opening doors for ministries. Ministries are about to be birthed through my life to help pastors, because I don't know if you know this, there's an epidemic, there's a crisis among ministers. 1,700 ministers quit the ministry every month. 75% of them are depressed or discouraged. It's an epidemic. And now, last week, I was with a gathering of pastors. And we were working towards birthing a ministry to provide a place for pastors to go and get refreshed. I can't share all the details. But after last week, up in the mountains and seeing the place that God is opening with a team of other pastors who are working together, I couldn't help to think and look back at those years and say, God, thank you that I went through what I went through. Because I thought it was breaking me, but it was actually making me. And I thought I was becoming weaker, but you were making me stronger. And through that experience, now you're birthing a ministry. And guess what, TC? Last Christmas offering, we collected money towards pastors in crisis. I don't know if y'all remember that. And last week, we were able to bless 12 pastors, our church. We were able to give financially towards this pastor's retreat and bless 12 pastors. And the reports from those pastors were like, man, we never felt so refreshed, so loved, so encouraged. We never felt that way. And God is working. And this is the full circle story. I didn't understand it, right? But I had to surrender to God's plan and say, God, have your way in me. Because I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to trust in your plan. Notice what Proverbs 3 says. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. What does it say? Trust in the Lord. And lean not on your own understanding. What does he say? What? Trust. Trust in the trial. Trust in the difficult. Trust in the pain. It may be painful. It may be hard, but you trust God is working his purpose. I just want to tell some of you this, that God never wastes a pain. He doesn't waste your hurt. He's using it to make you stronger, to help others. And lastly, if you're going to fully trust God, then you've got to move past your doubts and fears and remain confident in God's promises. We'll all have doubts. We'll all have fears. But we remain confident in God's plan. We all sometimes lose our faith, don't we? I wish I could tell you that I was a man full of faith all the time. I'm a human. I struggle like you. But this is what I've learned, that I have to move past my doubts and fears and remain confident in God's promise. What's God's promises? Romans 8:28, for God works all things together for you good, for our good, for those who are called according to his purposes. That I've been called, appointed, anointed, and God has not forgotten me, that God's going to use my life, that God is going to continue to sustain me through the trial and through the trouble. Those are the promises of God. And even when 2 Timothy 2:13, even when we're faithless, God remains faithful. In other words, you don't have to have a lot of faith. Matter of fact, you may just have a little bit of faith, or you may have no faith at all. And it doesn't even matter, because he will remain faithful. Can't tell you how many years I was drifting far from God, and some of you were in that boat at one period in your time, but God would remain faithful to you. He didn't stop going after you. He didn't stop running after you. He didn't stop working towards you. He didn't stop wanting to love you. He didn't stop loving you. Even when we're faithless, God is faithful to us. As we close, some of you right now are anxious. You're full of worry. You're concerned. You're thinking that November 3rd is going to be the end of the world. Newsflash, you will still have to go to work November 4th. You still have to feed your kids, right? You still have to pay the mortgage. The mortgage is not disappearing November 4th, or the rent. Car payments aren't disappearing. Life moves on. And some of you have allowed the politics to rob your peace. You've allowed the pandemic to rob your peace. But I'm here to tell you, politics, pandemic, problems, God's got this. No matter what, God's got this. God's got this. Stock market, he's got it. Protests, unemployment, whatever it is, he's got you. He's got you in the palm of his hand. He's in control. He's on the throne. So I leave you with this. What do we do when we don't know what to do? What do we do when things are out of control? What do we do when we're worried? Well, sit back in your easy chair. Grab your donut, because God's got this. I've never prayed with a mouthful of donuts, but can we bow in prayer? Some of you right now have come worried, anxious. Man, you're feeling the weight of the culture, the world. If that's you, no one looking around, and you say, Pastor, this was for me, and you need peace today. You need calmness. You need to be centered. I want you to lift your hand, but when you do, just lift it in freedom. If you're watching at home, same thing. Just lift it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Just lift it. Say, Lord, I release it all to you. Can you do that? Release it. Come on now. Release it. Jesus. Now, can we place everything we've worried about into his care and trust God no matter what? Say, God, I trust you no matter what. No matter what happens in my future, you're in control, and I love you. Lord, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the work you're doing by your Holy Spirit. Lord, I don't know what November 3rd will bring, but we know you've got it. I don't know what this coronavirus is going to bring, but Lord, I know you got it. And Lord, I pray, and I know you've got this church in the palm of your hands. So we just trust you with all of our hearts today. We love you and we thank you in Jesus' name. And everybody together said, amen.